In Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, you are placed at the helm of a small, fresh-faced, optimistic, and oddly square, free People's Republic. Here in Archtopia, thousands of brave citizens live out their lives in predominantly grey and depressing boxes, with a lucky few true citizens being able to enjoy the unrivaled luxury and dazzling spectacle of colour that is red brick walls. Stunning. But heroic architecture is of course just one small part of day-to-day life in glorious Archtopia. Every day the grateful working class wake up bright and early and go down to the bus station, where Comrade Bus is waiting for them. Comrade Bus never sleeps, never stops, nor pauses, and needs no driver. It only ever requires fuel, which is poured directly into its feed hole at unmanned gas stations. There's only one possible explanation for this, and that is the miracle of Soviet science. The eggheads over at the Archtopian Institute of Technology have created living, breathing buses. Now, some doubting, counter-revolutionary, anti-science types might suggest that binding a living, conscious creature to an eternal existence of circular travel, with no rest, relaxation, or deviations, and no purpose beyond facilitating the travel of its oppressors, could be viewed as a hint inhumane. But fear not, for the Archtopian Institute of Bus Control and Taming, a subsidiary branch of the Institute of Technology, have stated confidently that they, in all their years of operation, have never once heard a bus complain. And now, with the concern of automobile slavery put to bed once and for all, we can get to the reason why these brave, self-sacrificing creatures are locked in eternal semicircular torment. It is because your employees need a way to get to the coal mines. Yes, sirree, Archtopia may have abolished all forms of currency, so the people work for free, but Utopia cannot be built on hopes and dreams alone. Nay, the blood, sweat, and tears of countless unpaid laborers is required. Besides, it wouldn't be much of a city builder if you didn't actually build things. However, our glorious industry needs the fuel of human lives, and so, firstly, the submissive masses must be enticed to live in our glorious utopia. But strangely, voluntary immigration is non-existent, whereas active emigration via escapes, one way or another, can be quite spirited at times, especially during the culling season. And so, we are forced to grow the population by other means. Kidnappings. A swift bank deposit later, and the kind and helpful professionals over at kidnappersforhire.org.uk deliver us eager, if slightly dazed and confused manpower for our ever-booming metropolis. And better still, once the initial breeding stock has, settled in, new human resources can be grown at a brisk and steady pace. Unfortunately, however, more humans mean more arbitrary needs to satisfy, the most immediately pressing, of course, being food, swiftly followed by alcohol. This is a Soviet Republic, after all, and the people must be afforded their liquid nutrients. They can live for weeks without food. Trust me, I've tried. But only days without drink. Fortuitously, both vital resources can be produced from crops. Lots and lots and lots of crops. Crops, as far as the socialist eye can see, and still not even close to enough. And why is that? Because of cows. These satanic bovines not only destroy the ozone layer through their flatulence, but these terrestrial stacks of endless greed and avarice also devour actual, literal, mountains of food. 1,000 Archtopians could be fed fat and round on the amount of grain these living, breathing black holes devour each and every single day. But it is all worth it, as cows can be magically transformed into happy hamburgers. And then, before the hungry populace can get their greedy little mitts on them, the cow corpses are hurriedly loaded onto trains and shipped out of the country, so that the great sun's eternal bank account may inflate yet further. Wait. Oh no. The proletariat. I thought we abolished money. I live off bread coupons and wait hours in food line every day. For crust. Yes, but you see, I need money for buildings and infrastructure, as the main way you construct stuff early on is via the twin currency systems of rubles and dollars. You can use either one to quick buy a building. You pay for the resources used, steel, bricks, etc., and also for the manpower and transportation. Building something far away from a border will cost more, as the materials need trucking all the way to the building site. And so you see, peasant, I need money to trade with the savage barbarian countries on our borders, to build and grant you all the benefits you so thoroughly enjoy. Like bread queues. Yes. And think of all the other benefits as well, like free education. My millions give you the chance for a better life and higher education at the Palace of the People's Party. You could become a doctor if you wanted to. Ah, yes, I know, doctor. You work in coal mine too. That's not the point, okay? I need money for important things. Crops, infrastructure, power plants, my private jet. Private what? Oh, just shut up. You don't want to go to Frostbitistan, do you? I thought not. Now, back to the point. Workers and Resources is currently in early access, so all the bells and whistles are yet to be fully implemented, like TV or radio broadcasting with specific programs, or policing to beat some sense into your fleeing population. But it already has one of the cooler and more complex infrastructure systems around. Whilst in other games, bringing the joy of electrical lighting to your peasantry may be a painless and simplified system, in Workers and Gibbs, you need to please the Dark Lord Satan that resides in the nuclear power plant by creating an unholy mess of power lines running in a Gordian knot of indistinguishable entanglement. You do have power distribution structures that can send power to multiple nearby houses and buildings, but due to local religious beliefs and general fear of the dark, every citizen keeps every single solitary appliance turned to max at all times. So you will need to drag multiple power lines to multiple distribution buildings to satisfy their obsessive need for electricity. This is rendered slightly less autistic by the addition of big power lines, which can be split into smaller lines, but God help you if you didn't build a line with enough capacity, as you will then have to tear down the entire sacrilegious mess, desperately trying to figure out what line is which, where it is running, and why, inevitably getting it wrong and cutting power to the local heating station, resulting in a few thousand people keeling over from the lack of hot bath water. And speaking of tubs, you may not initially think that lack of bathing water is immediately fatal, but due to Russian reasons, your adoring masters will refuse to heat their homes with anything besides steamy bathwater. As far as I'm concerned, the blatant refusal to use abundant electrical energy for heat is due to the unrivaled prosperity of my people, with every Russian family having their own personal bianya, which they hibernate in to survive winter. This survival strategy does, however, have one minor itsy-bitsy problem, namely that it requires a lot of hot H2O, a surprisingly rare commodity in Soviet Russia in the middle of winter, necessitating a constant flow of heated water from massive heating plants. Simple, right? Well, it would be were it not for the unforgiving and thoroughly asshole-ish reality of thermodynamics and fluid physics. In theory, piping scalding hot water into a babushka's beaver reserve is as simple as turning on the tap. But reality is always a heartless whore, and pumping thousands of liters of water across kilometers whilst keeping it toasty in sub-zero temperatures is thoroughly problematic. Even after millions of rubles in pumping stations, insulated piping, and distribution centers later, still, my Ruskies drop like flies at the first sight of snow. Frostbitistan is not an ironic name. An early mistake in the heat distribution grid sees 90% of the population wiped out every winter. Presumably by Santa Claus, who recycles their bodies into festive toys for the citizenry. Theoretically, I could resolve this problem with another heating plant closer to Frostbitistan, but the rest of my cities are properly heated, and after a long, cold, boring winter, the population numbers tend to skyrocket, allowing me to forcibly relocate hundreds of joyous little citizens into the now vacant apartments. And you see, heating plants cost rubles. People are free. A piece of wisdom you had best well take to heart. Now, electricity and hot water is all well and good, but roads are the true arteries of civilized society, even more so in Ruskies and resources, as theoretically you could create a fully independent and self-sufficient republic, with all food, clothing, electronics, and even vehicles produced locally. Grains turned into food, alcohol, and meat. When combined with oil, gravel, and wood, you can magically produce chemicals, and chemicals plus grain, again, equally magically gets turned into textiles and clothing, and so on and on. Eventually, every possible need can be fulfilled entirely by local production, and it is damned satisfying when everything is rolling smoothly. The game does need a better way of letting the player know what is needed for what, however, because when you start building something, there is no way back. No refunds, not even component parts. So if you, as I did, have to tear down your 300,000 rubles power plant because you placed it a pixie's pubic hair too far to the left, you will want to break more than the bourgeoisie. On the flip side, however, incompetent building management, wasteful public programs, excessive loss, and waste of resources, time, and manpower. How much more of a realistic Eastern Bloc simulator could you possibly ask for? If, however, you are one of those disgusting people with a life and responsibilities and balk at the notion of spending 100 hours investigating Soviet-era industrial blueprints, you can also import everything you need from your loving cooperative neighbors. You can even turn a neat personal profit. Import grain, have your indentured servants refine it into food, and ship it right back out again, before their very own starving eyes. And, better yet, since your neighbors have not embraced the light, the warmth, and the glory of socialism, they have apparently shot quite far ahead technologically, and developed teleportation. You can instantly purchase goods anywhere, at any time, without waiting for your fleet of living trucks to bring the resources to you. This is great for running a coal plant in the middle of nowhere to heat the tourist areas. For you see, unlike citizens who can quite happily be replaced en masse every winter for no cost, tourists bring money. And they spend most freely when not frozen into cute yet morbid ice statues. And once their ability to not die has been fully fortified with 2 heating plants, the process of divorcing the rubes from all of their money can proceed apace. Plonk down a criminally overpriced restaurant, a beach, a cinema, and some Soviet statuary, which, apropos of nothing, cost about as much as a fully fledged heating system for Frostbitistan. Irrelevant, I know, but nevertheless, a fun fact. And simsalabim, you have yourself a fully fledged tourist trap. And since the room service, chefs, waiters, and personnel all work for the occasional head pat and food coupon, 100% of their sweet, tasty cash finds its way directly into your Swiss bank account. Methinks that when the police update finally hits, I shall make xenophobia against tourists a deeply illegal crime, probably punishable by public execution via vinegar enema. And believe me when I say, you have not truly suffered until you have been pumped so full as to fire acetic acid from your nostrils. But enough about my future justice system. To save yet further encroachment upon the Great Sun's credit card, all structures can also be constructed purely via resources. A depressing grey block, aka civilian holding pen, for example, requires gravel, asphalt, prefabricated panels, and steel. By building a construction office, you can bind for all eternity yet more sentient machinery souls to bring the required resources to the construction site, where yet more victim vehicles, or VVs for short, can carry out the construction process. With enough VV automobile slavery, the entire job can be finished just with machines. But untrained civilian randos from the labor pool can also be dumped into the lethal mayhem of an active construction site to speed things up. It may cost the occasional limb here and there, but all things are relative. And in comparison to my yearly weather genocide, a few workplace accidents here and there is hardly worthy of any notice. This manual building system, though, is more of a mid to late game feature, as you either need enough cold, hard cash to trade for the resources required, or enough mining, manufacturing, processing, and transportation infrastructure to produce and refine the materials and move them to the construction site. Whilst early on in your illustrious dictatorial career, you will have a couple million to build domiciles for the servants and set up an initial production infrastructure. Selling electricity to the bordering nations is a good start. Teleportation technology takes a lot of power, you know. But Pikachu juice is kinda cheap these days, so you soon want to move on to something more lucrative. Processed food is one alternative, vodka, a better one. A few VVs on top of it, and hundreds of tons of rot gut will soon be flowing across the border, bankrolling fresher and more extensive ventures, and so on and so on. The key gameplay loop is to build up a manufacturing chain with which to finance a larger, more elaborate one. The heart of any good city builder that, and despite being in early access, already the Republic is looking mighty fine, with plentiful building chains and probably one of the most interesting logistical systems in damn near any equivalent city sim. It can, granted, be a little finicky and annoying to smooth everything out and get it running just so, as currently there is no real good way of scheduling all of the buses and all of the trucks to be running continuously without screwing up the supply and the demand. But with so many different levels of infrastructure to play with, trucks, trains, aircraft, or cargo ships, you'll have plenty of opportunities and methods to increase the quantity of bling for the benevolent dictator's private island fun. And with a thriving Steam workshop adding and tweaking buildings, mechanics, and props, Gulag Republic is more than worth a look. And as an added bonus, it is also an educational experience and may serve as a valuable lesson as to why we probably shouldn't try socialism again. Unless you have developed a strong resistance to sub-zero temperatures in your apartment, or can guarantee that you'll be the one with the Swiss bank account.